learning by words and phrases and sentences to communicate with other people. Here's where part of the fortune lies: the use of language. There's magic in good communications. There's magic in the human touch of words. It was said the pen is mightier than the sword. That's true. Words are powerful. Words are almost godlike. Communication starts from somewhere, and for you, communication starts with you. Good phrase to remember: your world begins with you. This is not to be self-centered, but your world is around you, your own consciousness and your own awareness. And so for things to work well, first of all, it's got to work well with you. Once you understand that all of it starts with you, now you can start making some incredible progress. And good communication with you, for you, that happens to you, the great majority of it starts with you. Part of my training in getting me turned around, headed in the right direction, when I first met Mr. Schoaf, the man who helped to formulate the ideas that helped to change my business and social and personal life, was for me to understand that the biggest changes that was going to have to be made in my future were going to have to be made personal. I kept hoping the weather would change, and the government would change, and prices would change, and my neighbors would change, and the people would change, and my friends would change, and that the economy would change, and that the country's direction would change. I kept waiting for change all around. And then he's the one who taught me, what changes your world is not wishing for change. What changes your world is changing. You've got to change. The guy puts sand in his shoes and he can hardly walk. And you say, well, how can you walk with that sand in your shoes? The guy says, I can hardly walk. You say, well, why do you do that? I said, I don't know. I've just been doing it for years. Incredible. The guy puts tacks in his bed and he can hardly sleep. You say, well, how can you sleep with all those tacks in your bed? The guy says, I can hardly sleep. You say, well, why would you do that? I said, I don't know. It's been in the family for years. I mean, we just do things like that. Interesting why we would wish for it to change, hoping it will change, but resisting change. And sure enough, As a Man Thinketh, a book by James Allen, there's a little phrase in there that says, humans are rather strange. We curse the effect and nourish the cause. We want it to change, but we don't want to change. Interesting. Here's a good phrase to remember. You cannot speak that which you do not know. First of all, you've got to have it before you can speak it, before you can share it. So good communication starts with an awareness that, first of all, to get a good communication going with anybody, it's got to start with some substance on your part. Now, how to consciously grow and build the substance from where communication comes from, that is the key. It's like, first of all, making deposits. You can't withdraw anything till you put something in. We all need to be consciously aware every day of gathering up the ideas, the inspiration, the feelings that we're going to use for future communication. Future meaning maybe in the next 5 minutes, but maybe the next 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. Consciously aware. It is not that difficult for the years to pass and to not be conscious of what's happening in the way of demands or what's going to come in the way of opportunity for you, and just drift along and not be much further ahead a year from now than you are right now, simply because you just let the days pass. But if you have a conscious awareness of what it takes to effectively affect other people, to get your ideas across, to get decisions, to express your feelings and your opinions, once you do that deliberately and consciously and daily and consistently, now that's what starts your own personal development. These are not easy skills. You don't walk these summits of intellectual thought and word choice and emotional content and precision. You don't learn these overnight. But your commitment to excellence in communications can make all the difference in the world in how your economic and social and personal world works out. Words form the pictures of our minds. Words help to translate an interchange of thought and ideas between human beings. So one of the most important skills is the skill of good communication. Learning words, phrases, sentences, whether it's written or spoken. Language is so powerful in affecting our lives and using those skills to affect other people's lives. But here's where it all starts. Fundamentals. Somebody once said, being successful is not doing extraordinary things. Being successful is simply doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Right? That's obvious. Success is a study of the obvious, a refined study. So to achieve good communications, first of all, you've got to have something. In computer language, it's very simple. Nothing in, nothing out. You cannot speak that which you do not know. You can't share what you don't feel, and you can't translate what you don't have, and you can't give what you don't possess. So first of all, to give it, to share it, for it to be effective, you got to have it. So good communications, first of all, starts with preparation. Key word. Preparation is simply getting ready. And a big share of our life is simply getting ready. That first 5 years was to get ready to start our formal education. The next 8 years. 8 years is a chunk of time, right? But after 8 years now, you're ready for high school. That's a long time. 5 years and then 8 more years. That's a long time to get ready. So now we go through 4 years of high school. And all those 4 laborious years are to get ready for college. Now another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 6 more years to get ready, right? To be gainfully employed and earn a living and get out there in the marketplace and see what we can do. A lot of life is just simply getting ready, preparation. Now, to get ready for good communications, you got to spend part of your year, part of your day, getting ready for the next day, part of the week getting ready for the next week. It's so easy to be casual about not continually preparing for the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. Getting ready. And this is one of the most important areas to get ready in. Good communications. Key word, research, continual research. It's easy to hope that the skills that you learned in the 70s will last through the 80s. Or the information you gathered during the 70s will be sufficient for the 80s, but not so. We've got to continually learn, continually grow. So keyword, research, preparation, getting ready. Preparation is like building an account from which to draw. When you get ready to talk, you want to make sure you've got a verbal check that'll cash. Now, let me give you the dilemma. This stuff isn't easy. It's so easy to be careless with words and get the wrong reaction. What if you meant to say, what's troubling you? And instead you said, what's wrong with you? Can you imagine the difference? Just the mistake of one small word means all the difference in the world in the kind of reaction that you get. But here's the dilemma. To attack the problem but not the person. How do you put love and hate in the same sentence? I'm telling you, it is essential to show your contempt for the problem and your concern for the value. And here's part of the challenge. See, we've got to make that clear. You got to make it clear to your children. I love you, but I hate what you're doing and what it's doing to you. So you've got to learn to put love and hate in the same sentence and to make the insidious as devastating and as ominous as it should be and make the opportunity as bright as it can be. But we've got to learn to paint by language and by emotions how much we hate the wrong in order to develop the good. And this is some stuff you can't be mild with. See, you can't take the mild approach to the weeds in your garden. You've got to hate weeds bad enough to go kill them. You say, well, I've learned to handle this stuff. This is not stuff you handle. This is stuff you devastate. Now, these are not easy skills. This is stuff you've got to kill. If something is going after some treasure and some value, you've got to go after it with a high, hateful attempt by word, by language, by emotions, whatever is necessary to get the job done, to illustrate the evil and the possibility of good. But if you want to extend your reach, in my opinion, you just have to engage in the confrontation. It's where the values are. Let me give you a good philosophical phrase. All values must be won by contest. And after they've been won, They must be defended. We don't give large trophies for small effort. I'm an amateur on some of these studies, but an ancient verse says, God was the Word, and the Word was God. Wow, powerful language to illustrate how powerful the Word is. Words can be life-changing. Words can give life. Words can formulate ideologies, democracy and freedom and capitalism and all the things we enjoy in this unique country. We have to find ways to give words to that so that it can be understood. To prepare for good communications, take a new interest in life. Here's a good pledge to make at the beginning of the day. I'm going to be more interested in this day. I'm going to see if I can get more from the day. Boy, it's easy if you're not careful to just try to get through the day. But sophisticated people learn to get from the day. They don't want a day to go by without gathering up some new ideas, some new impressions, new color, new nuances, new sense of worth and value. They gather from the day interest. And here's two of the major subjects to study with interest: life and people. Develop a new, sharper interest, new, sharper focus on life and people. What's happening, what's going on. Now, that new commitment to a new interest for the day will get you ready for the years to come with better communications. Because to say it well, you have to feel it well. To say it well, you have to know it. And to know it, you just got to go through the laborious process of gathering, extracting the information. So that's the first word, interest. Here's the second word, fascination. A bit beyond just simple interest. Interested people are probably satisfied that it ticks. But fascinated people want to know what? What makes it tick? Fascinated people aren't satisfied usually with surface information. They've got to know more than just what appears. What's really going on? What's making things tick? What's making things happen? Why do people feel like they do and think like they think? What is the difference between success and failure? Who has the appetite and who doesn't have the appetite? This whole fascination about life and people and circumstances and society and money and banks and churches and sermons and books and records and life experiences and enterprise and nations and color and races and religion and a whole fascination for this wide panorama of life and life experiences. I'm telling you, if you'll take a new fascinated look at life and what's going on, it will now show up in color and sharpness in your future communications. Good communication starts with this laborious task of gathering knowledge. And I've got a parenthesis for you to make, working knowledge. Knowledge that you deliberately gather that will work for you in the future. This is why Schoaf taught me to keep these journals. He said, gather working knowledge. Knowledge that you go back over. Knowledge that you review. Ideas that you go back through one more time to see if you can't find the extra meaning, the extra depth, the extra worth, the extra value. Working knowledge. Your library, the books you read, the deliberate attempts to broaden your understanding. That's very important in bettering your communication skills. An ever-increasing amount of the refinement of intellect. That's so important, this working knowledge. Here's the next key word. This is a big one. Sensitivity. To really communicate well and to touch people in a wide range and from a wide range of experience, you've just got to have felt the experience. It's got to be part of you. Sensitivity training. Being touched by a wide range of human experience, perhaps even beyond your own. Human drama of experience, I think, for us to really be able to reach people and touch people with words and ideas and emotion and phrases and sentences loaded with feelings. We've got to go into this area of sensitivity, being touched, being affected by our own lives as well as the lives of other people. Sensitivity. Being touched, being moved. This is part of the heavyweight stuff that starts to show up now in our language and in our communication. I've lived a rather sheltered life all my life, so I've had to really work on this. What do I know about tragedy? I've never had any tragedy. But part of the world is tragic. Part of life is tragic.
And if you don't at least try to understand the dark side of life, the tragic side, the extreme sorrow side, your life is left a bit shallow. And sometimes when you live such a sheltered life, you just have to try to go outside of your own small world of sheltered experiences and see if you can't live as someone else might have lived, or at least try to be touched by the experience. Now, you can't really know till you live it. I understand that, but at least you can try. And if you do your homework here in sensitivity for a wider range of experience than your own, I promise you that extra worth will show up in your conversation and in your communication. You come away with a whole new sense of the great distance between failure and success, the whole distance between goodness and evil, between despair and joy. And you come away with more of a sense of value, because the true values of life come by the contrast. And unless you experience more of the contrast, even the values you consider valuable become a bit shallow if you don't understand the contrast. It's hard to really appreciate winning until you've done some losing. It's hard to appreciate success until you've done some failing. And if you've done some failing, success now becomes a much larger worth and value and commodity if you understand a bit of the other side. So part of this is just deliberately go where experiences beyond your own touch your life to get somewhat of an education as to the contrast of life and the differences. It'll educate your mind and educate your spirit. And sure enough, that extra worth will start showing up in your sentences and your words. They'll be weightier. They'll be heavier. They'll mean more when you talk to somebody. That kind of exposure, that kind of sensitivity, that kind of study. Now, you can't really know it unless you live there. I understand that. But you can go a great deal into trying to understand a wider range of human experience. And if you will try to let those experiences touch you, let them affect you, let them educate you, let them give you a broader range of emotional wealth and worth, I'm telling you, that extra worth will start showing up in your language, in your words and in your sentences. And you'll be able to touch people that you couldn't touch before. You'll be able to reach people you couldn't reach before you had the experience. Your words will have more of a drawing than they had before just by going through some of these experiences. So I'm asking you to consider the word sensitivity and ask yourself, what could I do and what experiences could I make sure that I engage in that would give me a broader range of understanding of human suffering as well as human joy, of the dilemma as well as the confidence, of the joy as well as the sorrow, of the success as well as the failures of life, and try to gain an understanding in a broader sense, and let that have an effect on your future ability to touch and reach somebody else. Key word, sensitivity. Here's the power in good communication. When what you say is only the tip of the iceberg of all you know, that's when communications becomes powerful. When what you say is only a portion of all that you know because you've gotten ready for this moment, this time, this occasion. I'm sure we've all been around some people who very quickly told us more than they knew. Didn't take them but a short period of time to run out of illustrations, to exhaust all their stories, probably meaning great lack of preparation, great lack of deliberately getting ready. Now, it is possible in some respects to prepare for life just by accident. You know, life does teach us some things by accident. There are some things you can learn by just careening from wall to wall and stumbling from day to day and staggering from week to week. I mean, you can learn some things that way. But the other 99% of what you need to know has got to be on purpose. Preparation on purpose. Good phrase. Am I engaged in preparation on purpose to get me ready to do in communication the skills that are necessary to take me where I want to go?
What you want to make sure is that from now on you don't treat conversations casually. Because casualness brings casualties. Not only on the freeway, but in conversation. Let actions speak, but make sure the actions don't substitute for the words. Make sure you say it.